You are now listening to the Select Gaming Podcast.
Square Enix to me has had a bit of a rocky time, and hasn't quite gotten out of the doghouse with us, Dusty. Um, we without this turning into the Select podcast featuring haters about Square Enix, I will say that they have done something very curious in the past year with it, which is Babylon's Fall. Um, do you have any sense as to what this game is?
So I only know about it through you. If you didn't tell me about it, I would know absolutely nothing about this game. And I know that you are going to do a review of it.
I am going to do a review on it, despite the fact that this game is cursed and has haunted every piece of electronic device that I own. And I think very soon this Microsoft is going to start speaking in tongues, uh, because I've uttered the word Babylon's Fall in it, and therefore it has become cursed. The game is okay. So for those uninitiated, Babylon's Fall is a 2022 action role playing game developed by Platinum Games, who and published by Square Enix, and Platinum Games holds a place near and dear to my heart because I feel like when games like Vanquish for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 were brand new, that I was amongst the few people who played that game and was amongst some of its biggest evangelists, right? So Platinum Games is known for its action combat, its silky smooth action combat, fast paced. What if Devil May Cry were just like 30% cooler? Is how I would describe sort of early Platinum. And at some point, Platinum Games took a expanded maybe a little bit beyond what they're capable of and started taking on additional projects. And Babylon's Fall, let's say there's two Platinum Games, the side that does really good to okay games, and then there's the other team, and that other team seems to have been responsible for Babylon's Fall, which is what is essentially a online service game, um, set in the world of ziggurats and around the Tower of Babel. Um, I've sent you some clips of this, Dusty, and I would and the art and by the way, I should say you can't play this game anymore. They closed the servers as of February 27th. I say you can't play it for now. I should actually say because eventually some hackers are going to get this up and running with private servers and so on. But Dusty, I've
Yeah.
sent you videos of this, and what was your initial sense when you looked at it?
I mean, I happen to admire the art style. I didn't think it was terrible, but I know, and we've talked about this, the compression rate with YouTube and how it
Oh yeah,
handles video. Babylon's Fall, right off the bat, is a game that if you do decide to upload gameplay and whatnot, it has this sort of soft look that it will get. It won't look as good online, but I digress. I mean, it looked like Elden Ring a little bit. It looked like a little bit like Elden Ring. It looked a little bit like the Dead Souls. What is it again? Demon Souls?
Demon Souls. Yeah,
Yeah, a little bit like Demon Souls, but not as like dark, a little bit more colorful. So I mean, I was skimmed through some of the stuff that you were doing, and I thought it was interesting. But I mean, to me, it just looks like a PlayStation 3 game, right?
yeah.
Like that kind of gameplay style.
So their aesthetics that they were going for was so the world is it's the Baroque world. So it's if anyone's familiar with Baroque paintings or Baroque music, it's got it's highly decorative, highly ornamental oil paintings. Um and this game has a hell of a filter on there that occasionally if you're looking, if you're looking at your character the wrong way, like it looks like it's got, you ever applied one of those screen protectors on a phone and it's got like these weird glue dots on there.
Yeah, the
I
bubbles and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, it's like exactly. So at its worst it looks like your screen protector has been misaligned on your new OLED. At its best, and then this game is full of aliasing artifacts, which man,
So technically, It is not technically a well-made game, though.
No, it is technically
Is it broken?
um is it broken? Um
Yeah.
it is kind of broken. Let me put it this way. I never hard locked. Like the game never crashed on me. That
Okay.
said, there was something going on with video that at various points, and I'll more joke about this in the review than anything else, but like the video didn't work at different points, and at one point the audio didn't work, and we'll have to work our editing magic to get something together, because it's worth thinking about this game now that you can no longer play it officially. um
Well, it's kind of like archival. I don't want to say archival footage, but it's kind of a document of it. At least your experience, anyways, on it, right?
yeah, yeah, and when people think of archives, they tend to think of like, this is the thing in its best state. And actually, no, this is the archive as it is. And it's about as true to my experience of the game basically being haunted than I can ever imagine otherwise. But to think about the game, the ways in which the game is bad, is that it feels like they developed a game that um basically they had no idea what to do beyond its initial promise. There's a hub world, can't really speak to many people, and the gameplay gets really awfully repetitive. And I'll save most of this sort of energy for the review. Here, what I would say is that it reminds me deeply of some of the Xbox 360 and PS3 games that I played a lot of back in that era, like Kingdom Under Fire, and King and games like that. I think there's a way in which the game has become sort of a whipping post. It becomes easy to hate on it because it's got um a lot of flaws to it. But I think more than anything else, I think it's fascinating that at long last, we're truly getting into the era where console games um are no longer playable anymore. I mean, even our sort of preoccupation as people who love, who dip our toes in the world of emulation and love original hardware. Like for us, even the fact that I own a physical copy of it for the PS5, there's no escaping this fate. That is now no better and no worse than a piece of landfill. That disc, right? I mean, it's a strange world we live in for these games, for these live service games.
So the thing with Babylon's Fall is, I don't think Square Enix is good at making these MMOs. I don't think that it's their bag. I don't think that they should ever try to do something like Babylon's Fall again, because the way that you explained Babylon's Fall to me, it really reminded me of Final Fantasy 11.
Yeah, that's not
And
that's
Final
not an incomplete,
Fantasy,
not that's not a perfect comparison, but I see how you mean.
but just like the sort of, because Babylon's Fall, it is a very stiff game. And I guess when I say that, it just means like it looks a little bit linear, feels very stiff, it feels very like formulaic. And I remember playing Final Fantasy 11 at a friend's house, and I remember being really disappointed that Final Fantasy 11 was an online only game,
Yeah.
right? My internet wasn't fast enough back then to even attempt to think about purchasing Final Fantasy 11, but I was just like, I don't know, it just felt like that wasn't Squaresoft's thing. I'm like, this feels so not like them to be making an MMO that's specifically going to be online. I just didn't see any longevity in it. And thinking about the things that you were telling me about Babylon's Fall, I'm just like, there just feels like there was no longevity in it. It feels like it was dead on arrival. Who was this game for? Did they think that they were going to steal people from Elden Ring? Did they think they were going to steal people from Fortnite? Because with the way that it looks and the world that you're entering, that's your competition, guys. And to make something that just feels so stiff, it's like it's dead on arrival. Like it's so tough to make an MMO game these days, you know?
Yeah, so I mean, the irony, of course, is that Square, from the experience of Final Fantasy 11 and then the failed experience of Final Fantasy 14 version 1, and then going into Final Fantasy 14, a Realm Reborn. Actually, Square has a lot of sort of in-house competence in making MMOs. Um, this is not. I think the problem is that I think it's partly a problem of marketing, right? Because actually, this this game has a lot more a lot closer lineage to like loot games, like like Diablo, or indeed a game like Kingdom Under Fire, or stuff like that, Kingdoms of Amalur. um the and I'll save this for the review, but it's not good at that. It's not good at that. I guess what I guess there's two things that are particularly, and I might be like the one person who actually feels this way other than developers, but it's actually kind of heartbreaking to have seen the end result of this game, because actually, if you think of if I said to you, "Hey Dusty, listen, I'm creating an action role playing online game. It's like a third person Diablo. It's got some online elements. So if you and a couple players want to, you and three of your friends want to join up in a party and go questing. There's plenty of there's that. Oh, by the way, it's set in the world of Babylon. You're climbing ziggurats, and then you're fighting, these corrupted soldiers as a former enslaved sentinel. For That's a crazy story. It's not like, it's not basically like we have it's most sci-fi, or sorry, most of these types of looter games, if they're either sci-fi, in which case they're Halo or close to Halo, like in the case of Destiny, indeed from the same developer, or they're Lord of the Rings but dark, or Lord of the Rings but more magic, or now apparently Harry Potter, right? So here we have a game that starts from such an amazingly cool premise and has an art style. Like, if you look at the concept art for this game, you'd be like, I don't know how these crazy people got this game greenlit, but it's so elaborate and detailed and gorgeous. The problem is that there's nothing on this plate. It's empty. There's no food on the china, and it's really, it's heartbreaking too. It's heartbreaking for that. It's heartbreaking because Platinum used to be a top tier game developer that you could always rely on, and it's heartbreaking too because it's when you see a game that has the potential, um I'll be perfectly honest with you. I bought this game after I found out that the servers were closing, partly because I wanted to experience it before it closed, and partly because actually the aesthetics of this game are so unheard of, in a video game industry that's replete with also ran titles like military badass shooter, uh Studio Ghibli looking game in our 2D 8-bit style. You know what I mean? Everything looks the same. Everything looks the same. And even though this game was derivative in terms of its services, it's at least its concept graphically, like the game is a hot mess. It looks ugly at various points. Like exactly as you said, it looks like an Xbox 360 or PS3 game. But man, did it look so cool in its promotions, in its concepts.
You don't hate this game completely then though. But you can understand why a game like this failed. I guess that's the thing. Why did something like this fail? Like this is kind of another failure from Square Enix, right? And
Yeah,
this is they did not need this. So why did they let it fail?
Dusty, like you and I have the good fortune of swimming back and forth between old games and new games, right? And we've played bad games. We know what bad games are. As you said, these are
Yeah.
games that don't even work, right?
They're broken. That's a bad game.
Look,
Yeah.
look, Babylon's Fall works. All right. Like, it doesn't, like, the worst you can say about Babylon's Fall is that they didn't, I don't hate the game.
Yeah.
I hate that they didn't get the time, or potentially they weren't capable, whoever was on the team's leadership, the team and its leadership weren't capable of delivering anything close to what I know that other platinum games like Vanquish were able to achieve, or indeed Bayonetta. So, look, is it a bad game? I guess it's a bad game in the same way that another stinker like Forspoken is probably a bad game, which is to say, by modern standards, it's fine, right? Like, that's in fact the point, because you know, for all of the sort of sense that the PS1 era was full of games that are bad to play now. Actually, mechanically, those games probably function a lot worse than Babylon's Fall and Forspoken. Um, and if you're in the position that we're in of going back and forth between these games, um, actually, you sort of soften the edges of a game like Babylon's Fall. It was the worst thing I could say about Babylon's Fall is I got really bored. I got really bored because I had managed to get, again, keep an eye out for the review, but I ended up getting a character build with carry up to four weapons, and I got a build that I was death incarnate. I was just going through and mowing people down. And yeah, I mean, Dusty, if you watch some of the late game, I mean, you get all the raw files, right? I just start ripping through stuff. It's like anyone's business.
I thought it looked cool at points, but I get what you're saying. It's like repetitive. I mean, there's really nothing to it. I think games like that survive if you have a large following. And I mean, to your point, if it's either fantasy world or it's either sci-fi world, I think this is just like a circumstance of bad marketing. I don't think Square Enix knows how to market for shit anymore, man. I really don't. And a game like Forspoken, that they marketed the hell out of it, all that marketing couldn't make for a good game. Maybe with Babylon's Fall, because it's an MMO, you should have pushed a little bit to get those people in their seats to give it a shot, because I mean, those games survive based off of its user base. You know what I mean? Like things like PlayStation Home and many other things, like those games survive based on their user base. And with Babylon's Fall, maybe its ultimate failure was there wasn't enough traffic to keep it alive and to keep it going, right? It just cost too much to keep the world alive. And I mean, that's a circumstance of just poor marketing and not getting it to people's attention, because I had no idea about this game until you told me.
I mean, I will say, admittedly, I've become a sort of self-styled connoisseur of liking games that no one likes.
You're just trying to be different. You're just trying to be different.
Listen, it's not a phase, okay? It's just how I live my life.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle. Babylon's Fall, we hardly knew ye, unless you're Dusty, in which case you just saw a bunch of files appear in the drive, and it's like, hey, can you sort this out? Because these are broken.
Thank you for tuning into the Select Gaming Podcast. Like, share, and subscribe. We create videos for the Select Gaming that are guided by our personal interests, and your support makes that possible.